Well, it's the same real process. You know, you go through all the same steps. You get a purchase contract, escrow is open, you get an appraisal on the property, you get the loan application, the credit report, and you put together your file, and it runs through the same process. The only major difference is that because we're working with private investors and not a bank, the underwriting guidelines are going to be less stringent and it's much faster. You know, for example, the banks are taking, on average, I'd say probably about 30 days to close on a purchase.
Sure.
Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, depending on the lender, depending on the situation, and depending on how fast the borrower gets their documentation to them.
Right.
And sometimes depending on the appraiser, because if you got an appraiser who's backed up and you're in an area where you have limited resources for appraisers, you know, it may take a week or two to get an appraisal, which can really put a lot of
Right.
extra pressure on everybody else to perform. But on private money, with the exception of waiting for a title report from the title company or the appraiser to create the report, everything else is much faster. It doesn't go to an underwriter and sit on a stack, you know, up here, and you know, you don't have somebody who gets to it when they get to it,
Right.
and then you don't have, you know, conditions that just don't make sense. Like, come on, we already got the guy's pay stub. Why do we need to get another one?
Right.
You know, you don't have to continuously re-get things as time goes on. And
Outdated documents.
exactly, and you know, we may review the appraisal and say, you know what, you know, we have questions on it. We will call the appraiser and ask him those questions to get it clarified. Instead of kicking it back through appraisal review, it goes through appraisal management company, then to the appraiser. It just doesn't go through so many channels with us, so it happens more quickly. Plus, you have the person who is actually funding the loan, our investor, looks at the file himself and decides if he's going to do the loan. It doesn't take several days to get through an underwriting process. It doesn't take 48 to 72 hours to get somebody to spit out a list of conditions.
Yeah.
It happens very, very fast, so it's a much shorter timetable.
Right.
Which really helps investors when they're buying a property and competing with other investors, because
Sure.
they can say, I want a 17-day close of escrow. The seller goes, that's great. 17 days is much better than 45.
Sure.